Yes, and Guy, let's go straight with our guest, the Mexican Finance Minister, Arturo Herrera. Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, the jet lag, in fact.
Yes, good morning, Mexico. Actually, good afternoon here in Venice.
Well, I'm sure you're waking up well. So I have to ask you, of course, there is a meeting that's very important happening here on taxation. You know, we're hoping to get this deal on the rate, but also being able to tax companies in the places where they make their money. How confident are you that we do get this deal come Sunday?
Very confident. Actually, in fact, last year and the previous year, we almost reached an agreement. And the G20, you basically have to have unanimity, and you have 19 out of the 20. The holdout was the U.S., and we are changing the administration. Everything changed. The U.S. became passed from being really the obstacle to being one of the leaders in this issue.
And you know, you mentioned there's been this change in the U.S. administration. Of course, for Mexico, that's very important because it's your biggest commercial relationship, but also politically. How is that affecting trade?
It's actually working pretty well. I mean, in many senses, both in terms of the coordination with the new administration, but also in very practical terms. It was quite interesting that in the middle of the pandemic and the economic crisis, and in October, we have basically 3 states in the country that have been already able to recover all the employment loss in the jobs in the pandemic and actually build upon it. 2 of those states were border states. So Chihuahua, which is border with Texas, and Baja California, which is border with California, were pulled out actually by the activity in the U.S.
And they're beautiful places, by the way.
Places, yes.
but on that front, you know, you mentioned the economy. Of course, we're now recovering from this pandemic. There's a big conversation as to whether or not the variants are going to be a problem. Mexico is a huge country. How much do you worry about this variants and not being able to get hold of the virus?
Well, we have to monitor and we have to work constantly. But we're pretty confident that we are doing the right kind of job. We very early in the pandemic took a risk management approach. So basically bought and signed contracts with many different pharmaceuticals because we were not sure which will work and which will be able to deliver on time. So just to give you a brief idea of the numbers, we bought and have under contract close to 254 million vaccines, which are the equivalent to 143 million treatments, and we only have 126 Mexicans, so and older than 12, only 92 million. So we have more than sufficient vaccines.
Right, and you know, that's on the economy. The other big aspect for Mexico is, of course, inflation. You know, we have seen an uptick in inflation in Mexico. Is that a risk for the economic recovery?
It's something that we need to monitor. As you know, there's a huge debate even inside these walls, if the inflation that we are seeing is temporary or if it's structural. Most of the data that we have points to temporary issues. We have some climate-related issues to La Niña, and so we have a reduction in the production of corn, which is a big issue in Mexico, and then we have prices on some goods. And then we have some upticks which were very interesting in Mexico because they are clearly pandemic-related. The price of laptops, of desks, of TVs, and even for goods and materials to clean in the house. So we assume that as the vaccination rollout keeps moving and people start going back to school and going back to work, they will need less of these goods and the prices will go down.
So you do expect prices to come down?
Yeah, and there will be also other prices that will go up. I mean, the prices of tourists, the prices of hotel, the airline tickets and restaurants, which have been somehow contained because these are the activities that are more contact intensive, and then they haven't been able to perform at their potential. Once the pandemic starts going even further down, these sectors are going to start moving.
And when you look at the currency, of course, that does have an impact on the currency. Where do you see the Mexican peso going?
Well, it's moving in the right direction. I mean, we have close to 18.5 pesos per dollar in February last year, exactly when the pandemic hit. And that triggered a very strong risk aversion behavior by the markets. And then in just 5 weeks, it moved from 18.5 to 25.3. That's equivalent of a 30% depreciation. But as everybody starts learning how to deal with a pandemic, including the markets, the peso starts moving down. And now it's actually less than 20 pesos per dollar. So we feel confident that it's going to stay at those levels.
And you expect that trend to continue?
we hope that it's going to be stabilizing around that level.
And I also have to ask about Pemex. There was that huge fire, just a few days ago. I wonder if you've heard anything from the company in terms of what happened there. But also, you've said that you want to help them keep down the borrowing costs from the company. I wonder if that means perhaps issuance of petro bonds or anything of the sort.
No. What we're doing is, with respect to the company itself, is basically two things. We try to make a very cold blood analysis of where Pemex was at. And if we look at measures like the EBITDA, Pemex is really between Shell and Chevron. So it's pretty much among their comparable peers. It's when we start taxing it, and that's us, that their numbers start deteriorating, and when they start paying debt services, it start deteriorating further on. So basically, Pemex is a okay managed company with two problems. It's overtaxed and over leverage. And those are the problems that need to be solved. And we are already working on that.
Right. And for investors, of course, it's a big story, a big corporate story in Mexico. Minister, thank you so much for joining us. Always a pleasure to see you. Arturo Herrera joining us from Venice here at the G20. Taylor,